Hello and welcome to SEC Baseball Power Rankings. Doing these on Tuesday, April the 16th. We are halfway through conference play, an exciting half of conference weekend play to go. Before we get into Power Rankings, which I will start from the bottom and go to the top, a reminder, our content here at Southeastern 14 always brought to you by BetOnline, which is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoffs. All the latest stats, news, and scores available for you to follow your teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to BetOnline today. Use your mobile device to get in on all the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, as I said, we start our power rankings at the bottom, and a couple of new things you'll notice this week. I'm giving you a team's overall record, its SEC record, and its SEC run differential, which is kind of interesting at times. We start the rankings with Missouri at 14. I still think for body of work, this is the number 14 team in the league, but there's some things that give me pause, and it depends on when you want to start judging teams as to whether you want to rank Missouri in the 14th spot, because there's a case maybe not to. Let's look at this, okay? Missouri, the only SEC team to beat Kentucky, which is 14-1 in the league. Last 3 or 4 weekends, let's look at what the Tigers have done. 2 close games with Kentucky, 2 close games at Vanderbilt, a sweep of Florida. Now, they were 3 one-run wins, but they were wins nonetheless, and taking 1 of 3 at Georgia, and all the final score didn't always indicate it. Missouri was in the game against those other 2 teams. Missouri got off to a horrible start this season out of conference and probably doesn't have enough pitching depth, but look at what Carrick Thompson's doing with this club lately. Don't sleep on Missouri, because if teams have found out, this is a team that can beat you on the right weekend. Number 13, Auburn. My goodness. Let's flash back to 5 weekends ago. Auburn was ranked inside the top 20. Since then, it has gone to Vandy, it has gone to A&M, and it has played Tennessee, Arkansas, and Kentucky at home. Last week, those were our five top teams in the league. So I'm not sure that Auburn, if the problem is Auburn just isn't very good, or the problem is schedule. But anyway, this league is a meat grinder. It can just take good teams and spit them out and cast them by the wayside. The Tigers are finding that out, as is another team in this league named the Tigers that we'll get to here momentarily. But Tigers breaking in some new guys. I'm not sure the story here. Eric Guevara was 4 of 9 this week. First career hit, first career home run. So I don't know what the situation is there exactly, but maybe Auburn has found a new bat. I think the bigger issue is just the pitching depth, where Auburn has just gotten worn out with not having an ace and just the bats in this league being so potent. And by the way, Auburn has played of the top offensive teams, A&M, Tennessee, Kentucky, probably your 3 top offensive teams in the league. Auburn, again, has played all of those. Moving on, number 12, Ole Miss, which is starting to show some life after taking 2 of 3 against Mississippi State. That was the last 2 games in this series. First time for Ole Miss to win the series since 2015. The Rebels have played 4 of my top 5 SEC teams so far, have several winnable series ahead. Let's not forget what happened to Ole Miss 2 years ago, when we didn't even think this team was going to make the tournament. Not only did it make the NCAA tournament, it won the NCAA tournament. So don't sleep on Ole Miss just yet. Still a competitive lineup with Fisher and those guys. And Mason Nichols gave them 6 1/3 innings of 1 earned run ball this weekend for a team that has really struggled on the mound. Number 11, LSU. And again, is LSU a bad baseball team? Or is LSU a baseball team whose conference schedule has included this? At Mississippi State, Florida at home, at Arkansas, Vanderbilt at Tennessee. That is a brutally tough schedule for anybody. The Tigers have now lost 5 straight in the league. Luke Holman's been fantastic. The rest of the staff not really up to snuff. But LSU only gave up 17 runs at Tennessee, which is not a bad pitching performance. Now, the problem is the bats. Outside of Tommy White, they just haven't been there lately. The offense only scored 8 runs this weekend. The Tigers 3-12 and have got their work cut out for them to make the SEC tournament, or the NCAA tournament, I guess, is the bigger issue. But 5 series coming up at Missouri, Auburn, A&M, both those last 2 at home, at Alabama, Ole Miss. So Are there enough opportunities for wins in there for LSU to sneak in the NCAA tournament? Probably so. We'll wait and see if the Tigers are good enough to pull that off. All right, next up at number 10, we got Florida. And your opinion of Florida probably depends on when you see this team. Let's not forget, this is the team that has taken series from Texas A&M, from Mississippi State, and won a series at LSU. It has also been swept at Missouri and then lost 2 out of 3 at home last weekend to South Carolina. 6-game losing streak. Would have been a 16 losing streak at least if not for a comeback win over South Carolina. Florida's been dreadful in the midweeks, as everybody knows. But a team that is good enough on the weekends to beat just about anybody. And so people are very split on the Gators because sometimes it looks pretty good, sometimes it looks awful. Your stance on Florida probably just depends on how you weigh all that. Number 9, Alabama. Man, what's this say about the SEC? That the number 9 team in our power rankings is the team that just took 2 out of 3 from Arkansas, which had been the number 1 team in the country. Alabama got 8 shutout innings from freshman Zane Adams on Saturday. This is a team that's had some pitching injuries, has needed someone to step up. Maybe that's a good start. This is a team that's been good enough to have taken series from Tennessee and South Carolina. So don't sleep on the Crimson Tide. They've got a chance to move up. All right, at number 8, Mississippi State, another team that I have a hard time knowing what to do with. They're not a top 25 team by any of the computer rankings that I like, for whatever that means. May not mean anything to some of you, but I do pay attention to some of the computers because they pick up on things you've done and maybe the toughness of the schedule you played and that sort of thing. And it's also a team that just lost 2 out of 3 to Ole Miss. But this is the team that is plus 19 in the SEC in runs scored. I don't really understand how Mississippi State is 49 in the RPI. That's going to be one of State's big obstacles to making the NCAA tournaments. But certainly, this is a team that has played well enough in SEC weekends to make it. Don't sleep on the Bulldogs. All right, number 7, Vanderbilt. I think 2 weekends ago we had Vandy at 2 or 3 maybe. And this is the team that when it looks good, it looks really good. And when it looks bad, it's awful. The problem for Vanderbilt is it's not beating the best teams on the schedule. It was swept at South Carolina. It got beat by A&M by 30 runs across the series this weekend. One of those was a run rule game. None of those 6 games against those teams were close. In the meantime, Vanderbilt swept, Auburn and Missouri at home and taken 2 out of 3 against LSU. I think this staff has got better pitching than it's shown, but you got to produce it on the field. Vanderbilt has had the easiest part of its schedule. It gets a little tougher with what's coming up, although Vandy does have 2 out of 3 series at home. So see what the Commodores do from here. Now, this is going to surprise people, but I've got Georgia at 6. Run differential in the league, -8. It is 7-8 in the league, which is a game behind Vandy. But let's look at the schedule. This team has gone to Kentucky, gone to Tennessee, gone to Mississippi State. So it's got 3 home series coming up. It is number 2 in the country with 94 home runs. 5 guys with 9 home runs or more. It's not just Charlie Condon. Yes, he's got 24 home runs and a 1695 OPS. And is the pitching questionable? Yes. But the way this team hits home runs and the way this team has played against a pretty tough SEC schedule so far, I put Georgia ahead of Vandy. Those teams play in a couple weeks. They'll settle it on the field, I suppose. But for now, I've got Georgia number 6 in the league. All right, number 5, I've got South Carolina. This is sort of a, for lack of a better idea, pick. 8-7 in the league, run differential in the league of +1. Just took 2 out of 3 at Florida. Has swept Vandy at home. Eli Jones was pretty good on the mound, giving 6 good innings for the Gamecocks this weekend. Again, I've liked this lineup. I think it's deep. I think it's experienced. If Carolina gets enough pitching, it's a good team. Again, I think you remember back a year ago how well this team played before the injuries settled in. South Carolina 5 by default. Now, this is where we really separate. And I think you could argue these teams in a different order, but this is the way I've got it so far. Tennessee is 30-6 overall, 10-5 in the SEC, a run differential in league play of +51. 370 runs, that's number 3 in the country, number 1 in the country with 95 home runs. Christian Moore and Blake Burke are now in a back and forth to be the school's career home run leader. Both of them have got 42. That's number one on school history charts, but these guys are still playing. We'll see where that settles at the end of the year. Pitching-wise, this is not the Tennessee staff that we've seen in the past, but it's still a pretty good one. Nate Snead and Drew Beam, both top 10 in the SEC in ERA. Kirby Connell has been a big back-end guy for Tennessee late, a soft-tossing lefty who's been used to eat some innings and finish some games. Tennessee, just the way this team hits and the way it is dominated on offense of late, I think Tennessee certainly can't be ranked any lower than number 4 and maybe has a case to be ranked higher. Here's the problem. Let's look at the teams in front of them. All right, I've got Kentucky at 3. It's got a plus 85 run differential in the league. That is hands down the best in the league. 14-1 in the SEC. How can you rank a team that is 14-1 in the league, number 3 in the power rankings? Well, we'll get to the other 2 teams in a minute. But for Kentucky, it's really been amazing what this team has done. Last loss was a midweek loss to Samford, April the 9th. This team has only got one guy in the top 15 in the league in on-base percentage, nobody in the top 15 in slugging, and it leads the SEC in runs scored in league games. What that means is this is a lineup that is both balanced and opportunistic. The pitching staff, they've got several guys who can go 5, 6, 7 innings. They keep the ball on the ground. Nick Mingione, I think, probably no question about it, would have to be coach of the year in the league so far. Maybe no question about it. There's a couple of guys ahead of him that have also got an argument, but certainly the gap between expectations and performance for Kentucky has been greater than anybody's in the league, at least on the good side of things. Number 2, Arkansas. Number 1 in the country a week ago. Number 1 in our power rankings, I think, all year. Run differential plus 35 in SEC games. A league low 47 runs allowed in SEC play. I still think this team is elite, but let's also be honest. The 5 series that Arkansas has played, 4 of them have come against the bottom 4 teams in our rankings, plus Alabama, which is in the bottom half and just beat Arkansas. The tougher portion of the Razorback schedule is coming. Arkansas had one of the easier schedules in the league anyway. But look, this team wins on pitching. It is number 1 in the country and hits allowed per 9 innings. If you can't score, it's hard to win, and teams really, for the most part, cannot score against Arkansas. All right, number 1, Texas A&M. Saw this team this weekend just demolish Vanderbilt by, I think, a combined 36-6. It is plus 50 in run differential, 11-4 in the league. I don't know that I've seen a team play a better, more complete weekend as long as I followed SEC baseball. That's been 20 years. Than what A&M did to Vanderbilt this weekend. It just bludgeoned the Commodores with early home runs, got out to early leads. Ryan Prager was sensational again. Evan Aschenbeck, their jumbo reliever, pitched a couple games, was very good. I think this is the most complete team maybe in the league. You got Braden Montgomery, who is the top bat in the league, not named Charlie Condon. I think their top 3 guys, Grahovac, Lavalette, Montgomery, might all be top half of the first-round picks when they go. This team offensively is amazing. The left side of the infield defends really well. The pitching better than people thought, deeper than people thought. This is a scary, scary team to play anytime, anywhere, in any park. Aggies, number 1 in our power rankings, number 1 in the country this week in a lot of polls, and could be a team that stays there for a while. I like this team, the way it's playing. Right now, if I had to name a national title favorite, I think it would be Texas A&M. All right, I'm Chris Lee for Southeastern 14. Thanks for watching our power rankings. Please hit the subscribe and like buttons. That lets you know what content is coming. We've got football, baseball, and basketball. Our channel is presented by BetOnline. We appreciate you watching, and we will see you again soon.